Welcome to the Mixing Mondays podcast, episode 10. We finally made it. Today, I want to talk about what to think about before you begin recording and mixing. So, a lot of the times, I'll freestyle with an artist. We find a beat on the spot, and then they go into the booth and freestyle whatever comes to mind. And my job as an engineer is to automatically lock in a creative sound and go in the direction that I believe the artist wants to go in. However, communicating with everybody participating on the song will make the session run a lot smoother in the end, and it ensures that everybody is on the same creative page, from everybody involved, from the producer down to the artist and down to the engineer. I would start with deciding what's the mood, if there's a topic, what's the topic on the song, if there's any sonic textures that should be important to the overall vibe of the track. For example, if you're using a whole lot of distortion, or should the vocals be bright or dark? Say if you're working on a lo-fi hip-hop track, maybe you want the vocals to sit a little darker in the mix. Of course, nothing is ever, this is the right way to do it exactly like this. But these are some things to think about before you do begin the creative process, so that way everybody understands the direction of the song. Now, if you're an artist, you may not know all the technical terms to communicate to your engineer. You may not know,
I want my vocals to sound overly compressed, or I want my vocals to sound airy on 16K.
You may only communicate to your engineer in terms of, I want my vocals to sound dark, or I want this part to sound like a radio effect. However, if you are struggling with trying to communicate with your engineer the exact tone that you want, it's probably easier to send them reference tracks of maybe different artists or different songs that you've done that resembles the sound that you're trying to go for. Because as an engineer, when I'm listening to those other songs, I can understand how they've sat the vocals in that pocket. Or for the beat itself, how loud do they have the kicks knocking? How much real estate is the bass taking up? And all these little things, I can take notes from listening on a reference track and then apply those same sonic signatures onto the track that we're working on. Usually these sonic signatures vary from genre to genre. For example, on pop music, usually those songs have a lot of high frequencies. And on the other spectrum, you have lo-fi hip-hop, where there's a lot of darker tones in it, where the hi-hats aren't as abrasive. Usually you can pick up on these signatures and automatically understand where an artist is trying to go. Like I said, if you don't understand, then it's better just to communicate with them and ask them for references of what they are trying to go for, and then understand those sonic signatures and apply it to that song that you're working on. So after discussing what texture you're trying to go for the song, what is the sound that you guys are trying to go for, then I would start thinking about how to achieve that. So what mics am I going to use? How am I going to EQ those mics to get that sound? Or if we're using reverb, what reverb setting am I going to use? Am I going to use a hall? Am I going to use a room? Am I going to use a plate? All these things I'm going to think about as we're discussing the creative direction for that song. But like I said, all this is subjective, and there's no right way to pick a mic, right way to pick a sound. You could use the brightest microphone in the world for some of the dirtiest hip hop tracks. At the end of the day, it is up to you to create that creative decision and to understand why you're doing it. And as long as everybody is on the same creative direction, all it takes is a good vocal take and good recording techniques to set up the mix engineer to enhance the overall vibe of the track. In the mix down process, you can get as creative as possible. I encourage artists to get hands-on in the mix down process and help your engineer out. But during the mix down process, your job is to take the idea that you've discussed with the artist and enhance it the best way possible. So that means if you got to play around with panning, say you want to create a better stereo image for the listener, then maybe pan some guitars to the left or pan some hi-hats to the right. Just play around with sitting different elements in different pockets of the stereo field. In my opinion, it's better to record a bunch of ideas during the recording process and then remove what you don't like in the mixing process. So say for instance you're recording vocal ad-libs. I say add as many vocal ad-libs as possible, and then during the mix down we can remove some and take some out where it feels like, okay, that's not really where we should have an ad-lib. So that way when you do get to the mix down process, you can pick and choose what to keep that helps enhance the vibe of the song without feeling like you added too much. So with that being said, we're going to wrap this up here. So all in all, before you start a mix, just think about the creative direction that you're trying to head in. so that way everybody's on the same page and the whole session can run as smooth as possible. Thank y'all for watching, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one, man. Peace out.